Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. We are just waiting for a few more people to come in from the waiting room. We'll just give it a minute for everyone to connect to audio.
Wonderful. Yes. Welcome, everyone. And then we'll quickly go over the objectives for today, the agenda, and how the program will work.
All right, so it looks like most of the people are in from the waiting room. We are so happy to welcome all of you to day 2 of the Student Symposium. We are very excited to have you here. We encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat and maybe say what country you're from in the chat to get to know each other a little bit more. So what we're going to do today is we have a variety of student presentations that are presenting at the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network Symposium hosted with the Global Schools Program and Mission 4.7 and SDG Academy. So it's bound to be a very exciting day. So in the first half of the day, which were approximately an hour, there'll be 5 different presentations. Then we will have a short break. And then in the second hour, there'll be 5 additional presentations. And at the end, we will have a little bit of student networking for the students to talk to each other or people to ask them questions about their presentations, which we're very excited about. And for all the students, we will be introducing you generally, your biographies that you submitted to us. So everyone else on the call will know a little bit about you just briefly. And then we'll also be sharing our screen on our end to share your presentation. You can tell us next slide to go to the next slide in your presentation. And I think those are all the logistics we have for today. And if there aren't any questions, then we will head right into the start of our presentation sessions. And we are very, very happy to begin with that. So there is a program on our website, which is globalschoolsprogram.org/symposium. And you'll be able to see the order of the presentations, which has also been sent around to the variety of students presenting. So in the first hour, we will have Keegan Wallace. Then we will have the group of students, 2 groups actually from Suma-san. Then we will have Ensal Rowe, Gloria. We will also have Ashley June. And then the last person to go in the first hour of the session will be Ite Oluwasiki Roland. So I hope I said your name correctly. So we're very excited to hear from these first 5 groups in the first hour, and then the other groups in the second hour. So I see Keegan is on, so he will be the first presenter. Let me see here. I don't see on my screen specifically, but I will head into the bios. So Keegan Wallace is a student ambassador for the volunteering strategy for South Australia and volunteers his time with several charities, including the Salvation Army, the Australia Red Cross, and the Smith family. He's also published a book, which he published at the age of 10, called A Crash of Rhinos. And the purpose of this book was to raise awareness of the plight of the Black rhino species in Africa. This book is sold at a variety of zoos and stores. He was also the first student in South Australia to receive a Green Adelaide grant, which he used to establish a nursery at his school. He's also been a voice at the United Nations as a youth delegate for Australia. He also was honored to host the 2020 Department of Human Services Volunteer Thank You Awards, which was held online during COVID. He's also held events at theaters and was the keynote speaker at a Young Changemakers conference. We are very, very excited to welcome them here to present their project today.
All right. Yeah. Hi. That was quite a, yeah. Cheers for that. Cool. There's the.
Just gonna pull up your presentation here. And feel free to go ahead.
All right. Is it up?
Yes, can you see my screen?
No, I can't see, but that's all right. I know the slides anyway. All right. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to wherever you are in the world. I'm Keegan Wallace, as you heard, a 16-year-old Australian and student of Scots College, Adelaide. I'm honoured to share with you my school and my environmental sustainability project.
Excuse me, Keegan, just let me give you 1 second to share so you can actually share with the presentation that you prepared. Just give me 1 second.
I thought so, yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. All right, as I've just said, I'm Keegan, I'm 16, I live in Australia. I go to Scots College, Adelaide, and I think about 2 years ago, I led a environmental sustainability project at my school. Next slide, please. So my school is an independent co-educational day and boarding school located on 2 adjacent campuses in the inner southern suburbs of Adelaide, South Australia. We're down under. At the beginning of 2020, I proposed to my fellow middle school leaders when we were 14 and 15 that we establish a native plant nursery on our school campus to ultimately revegetate Brown Hill Creek Reserve, a local natural reserve. We were working towards bringing biodiversity back by revegetating the local creek. I was successful in my application for a Green Adelaide Grassroots grant, which really helped us get going. Next slide, please. The aim of establishing the native nursery is to create opportunities for the students to engage in environmental service by contributing to SDG 13, 15, and 17. Next slide, please. We are specifically focusing on the targets of life and land, as the Brown Hill Creek Reserve and surrounding areas support a small threatened ecosystem of grey box grassy woodland. These woodland are a valuable habitat for many native and threatened plants and animals. Next slide, please. The middle school leaders managed the project through 4 focus groups. Each focus group decided on actions as well as success criteria against which we measured various aspects of the project. We used the 5 phases developed by the Project Management Institute. The 5 phases make up the project lifecycle, which are tailored to fit the project's need. Next slide, please. Once the propagated plants were established, they are planted in 2 locations. So on the banks of the creek flowing through the junior school campus and on a plot within Brown Hill Creek Reserve. And that photo up the top right there is the very start of the nursery. Next slide, please. Over the past 2 years, as part of the Brown Hill Creek Sustainability Revegetation Project, we included Year 5 Scots students, and they were involved in the revegetation and habitat restoration activities, which has now become a long-term program in which students can follow the progress of their sites throughout their schooling and hopefully into their adult years as volunteers. So yeah, it's been ongoing since. The students go and visit and make sure the sites are maintained, and they really get to see the progress, which we found really beneficial to especially the younger students. The plants to revegetate the area are purchased from grants. Through the nursery, we propagate them, so it's now fully self-sustained from the seeds and cuttings that we get from there. Next slide, please. We engaged every year level in various propagation and planting activities. As you can see here, the Year 4s, we're teaching them how to propagate. They're teaching us about what they've learned in the science classes. So really establishing the connection between both the younger and the older students. Next slide, please. yeah, and there's some of the older students and the leaders and even the principal getting involved. So yeah, really the whole school got around it, which I suppose was quite fortunate, but yeah, it was really good to see. Next slide, please. There's some more of the younger students, the ELC kids. Yeah, I think they probably enjoyed it the most, or we enjoyed working with them the most, because yeah, we got to explain the nursery and we got to ask them for help in propagating and planting all the plants and the seedlings into the sites. And then they even made their own nursery down on their campus, which is still up and going. And yeah, it's been really good to learn about the native plants for them. Next slide, please. Yeah, so to keep the project as sufficient as possible, we really tried to involve the community. So that's like experts such as the seed bank manager from Trees for Life. And he took us out into Brown Hill Creek and showed us how to collect seeds from the native environment, which then meant we could stop buying them and propagating our own. Yeah, that was for Trees for Life, which is a non-for-profit community-based organization, which essentially does what we are aiming to do, try and help restore the natural environment. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the students that attended that Trees for Life workshops were from year 7 to year 10. They were required to apply for a limited spot. And so these students were really the invested ones to make sure they were going to keep it up and going, because without the students, it's going to dwindle. So we made sure there were people really interested, and yeah, they have kept it going, which has been really good to see. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is some of the labeling and storing of the various species, and through the Trees for Life, we learn how to store them, when they're going to be ready, when the pods are opening, all of that. So we've got like stores of seeds now in this one storage room. So that's a bit crazy to see, but it's also really good. Next slide, please. That's just some more of the propagation and the other experts we consulted there, that Angus Stewart guy. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so that's some of the propagation. Yeah, we've now got like greenhouses around the school, developing them and got them all labeled and propagating. So it's continually ongoing, and yeah, just having students keep it sustained, and students interested, especially the younger years that are now coming up. They're now sustaining it and yeah, keeping it up and going. Next slide, please. Learning beyond the classroom and doing practical hands-on activities was a highlight for everyone, because it's something that isn't normally in the curriculum. So, you know, having to establish irrigation and propagate and plant and, you know, put up supports for the plants and do all that. Yeah, it was really hands-on, and it's been transferred into, I know I've now got irrigation at home. So yeah, it's transferable to other areas of life, which I think is one of the key things you want to take into account when you're developing skills. Next slide, please. Yeah, not all work involved just plants. It was in the nursery we established was in close proximity to the agricultural precinct. So we wanted the propagation tables to aesthetically match the area. So we communicated with the landscaper to custom build the propagation tables with the same timber used for the garden beds. So that's helped it integrate it really well, and it just fits in really well with that area. That was a long design process, lots of communication. So it's more skills apart from just gardening. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's some of the more skills. That's the team up there. Yeah, we designed that sign and put it up, as you can see. which is really nice. More design skills, lots of skills developed there. Yeah, we mounted on timber and it's now above. So everybody who comes through knows it's the Scotch nursery. Next slide, please. The communication focus group. So yeah, as I said, we were split into focus groups. So there was a design, a communication, like a cross campus, and a propagation group. So different focus groups based on your current strengths and what strengths you want to develop. The communication group works with the school marketing team to ensure the native nursery features on the Scotch College website. Yeah, and that's environmental sustainability as a result of student agency. Next slide, please. By revegetating both the Brownhill Creek line and neighbouring woodland, we continue to help create a wildlife corridor and a refuge for native wildlife. It has been a very rewarding journey knowing that we can and are active young citizens directly contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals. This real-world authentic learning is meaningful and enables young people to have a positive impact on their futures. Yeah, being able to see the tiny little seeds and saplings we planted 2-3 years ago now, you know, doing really well and flourishing. It's been really good. And we can really see a change in the area, in our local area as well. So that's been really, really rewarding. Yeah, that's all I have. Cheers.
Thank you so much for the wonderful, wonderful presentation about the work that you're doing with the nursery in your school. I would like to ask you a quick follow-up question about the project if there aren't any questions in the chat box. So going forward, everyone, please feel free to ask questions in the chat of our student speakers. So I wanted just to let you have a 1-minute brief response to my question. How did you get started with this, and how did you get your teachers and principals and directors on board with this project?
Yeah, so I suppose I was fortunate because in year 9 we have like middle school leaders. So I got the service leader. So that did give me a platform. It's definitely possible without that platform. Yeah, but really just, I suppose, being enthusiastic is probably the best thing, because then other students catch on. Yeah, they share your enthusiasm and then it just spreads. So yeah, the principal did end up getting really involved, or the teachers got involved. Everybody tried to contribute as much as possible. The community, Indigenous members of the community, they all contributed just because I think we were all passionate about it. Yeah.
Great. And one more final question. How was the reaction of your schools and parents in the very beginning?
In the very beginning, I don't think anybody saw it becoming yeah, really a sustainable project and an ongoing thing, and something that has become, you know, a part of our website, and yeah, something that is a feature of the school now and a feature of, yeah, the agricultural precinct. Yeah, as I said, everybody was really supportive and everybody did help out in any ways they could. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We're very happy to have you here sharing your project. So we will move on to the next group of student speakers that are from the Suma San organization. So they have a variety of students on today, as you can see, with their lovely backgrounds and many students that applied. So they actually have about 2 groups that will be presenting their projects today. And I think that I will let them actually give their introduction, since they have so many students working on the project, so they can speak a little bit about themselves as well. So let me share my screen first of all, and then they will be able to get started.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
I am a global scholar, and we are here to speak about Project King. My name is Jasmine. I'm from Hungary, and I'm currently living in Budapest. Just a quick fun fact about me that I have a hedgehog as a pet, and his name is Simon. Now I would like to introduce my global sister, Angie.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Angie Berlis, and I am from Puerto Rico. A fun fact about me is that I've named all my pet fishes the same. And now introducing my global brother friends.
Thank you, Angie. Hello, everyone. I'm Rance Torres from the Philippines. And one fact about me is I love to cook and eat. And now we are very glad to start our presentation. So, Ms. Amanda, if you are so kind, please share our video in the next slide. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to pull up the video.
Hello, kamusta, hola, and sia. Who are we? We are a group of 19 students from 4 countries and 4 continents: Nigeria, Hungary, the Philippines, and the United States of America, including Puerto Rico, are all the countries that represent our team. Each member of the team has their own unique set of ideas, skills, perspectives, and strengths that play a role in our growth and cooperation as a team. Before joining Project King, we were all strangers. King stands for Kids Impacting Nations Globally. It's an international youth program, part of Symposium, a nonprofit organization headquartered in New York City. The King program provides an intense 2-year curriculum that virtually connects secondary school students across the globe in a unique international distance learning program based on leadership and service. Teachers and Mentors offers educational and personal empowerment experiences, all with a purpose. We hope to maximize our growth potential and better visualize life opportunities. Through all these things, we have been empowered to teach others about what we have learned and use our knowledge to launch local and global projects with positive impacts. Now, I would like to pass it on to my global sister, Angie.
Thank you, Jasmine. Next slide, please. Thank you. Managing language barriers. Like many of you, we also had to overcome big language and translation challenges. While most of us are bilingual, we learned the importance of listening, clarifying, and asking questions to ensure everyone is heard and understood. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, what makes us a story of change? We understand that applying what we've learned this past year takes more than good ideas. We had to be willing to try new things, make compromises, and appreciate and apply our individual differences. Through all of these things, we have been empowered to teach others about what we have learned and use our knowledge to launch local and global projects with a positive impact. Now to my global brother Rens.
Thank you, Angie. Next slide, please. So what we have studied from the three pillars of educate, empower, and excel, our curriculum connects the teaching of leadership and character development to the sustainable development goals. Our particular focus begin with SDG 3, good health and well-being, SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institution. Now let's hear again my global sister, Yasmin.
Thank you so much, friends. Next slide, please. What we believe. The students of Project King are making an impact on the world, as today by creating this much needed website. Impact does not always have to be global. It changed all of us who contributed. Having the opportunity to work with our brothers and sisters in this program had a huge impact on us. We come from different countries and continents, so our cultures differ. And that allows us to hear opinions, perspectives, and solutions from each other that would not be possible in our home communities. This makes working together more interesting, authentic, and of course, more impactful. We are now honored to turn things over our teammates who will describe our current group project. Thank you so much.
And the next group from Suma-san, please feel free to go ahead.
Thank you so much. If you would be so kind, can you go to the next slide, please, Miss Amanda? And the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Szabó Steffi. I'm from Hungary, and an interesting fact about me that my favorite animal is a goat. And now I would like to introduce my global sister, Marikar.
Thank you, Steffi. Hello, everyone. I'm Marikar Sanorho from Philippines. One fact about me is I love to serve and help other people. Now, I would like to introduce my global brother, Adam.
Thank you, Marikar. Hello, everyone. My name is Fekete Adam. I'm from Hungary, and the fun fact about me is that I have a newborn kitten. And now I would like to introduce my global brother, Tumishay.
Thank you so much, Adam. My name is Ogunwayolu Asumishe from Nigeria. And one fun fact about myself is that I love to learn every and anything. Back to you, Steffi.
Thank you so much, Timeshay. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now that you all heard about Suma-san and Project King, we will describe the project that we've been working on the past few months. So the issue. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February, we learned soon after the largest number of refugees were escaping to Poland, Romania, and Hungary. The numbers you see on this map are the refugees total from about 2 weeks ago. Hungary, like all of the EU states, opened its doors to Ukraine after the Russian invaded the country. We did learn that, unlike Poland and Romania, refugees in Hungary had less access to support and services. We talked a lot about whenever we could offer needed information to feeling refugees, specifically targeted to those entering Hungary. Soon, we were brainstorming all the aspects of how positivity impacts the life of those suffering from being displaced. What we knew was each of those individuals and families had already suffered greatly, so the time to act was now. Next slide, please. Thank you. The mission. The goal of this global team project is to make a change in the world. Our ambition is to help and support refugees currently in Hungary through our website and application. We know everyone can make an impact on the world, both big or small. Another intention of Project King is to showcase how we can achieve big results from our collective action. And now to my global sister, Marikar.
Thank you, Steffi. Next slide, please. The challenge. We know everyone can make an impact on the world, both big or small. The goal of this global team project is to make a change in the world. Our ambition is to help and support refugees currently in Hungary by creating a website and mobile application with links to critical information. Our diversity in culture and location made our work more complicated and challenging. Much of the research took place online, so we were able to distribute tasks across the globe, then come together to compile and check each other's work. Along with looking for helpful websites, finding ways to connect and to reach people through social media. We also had to overcome a lot of language issues. Knowing most users coming across the border spoke Ukrainian, we had to check that each link titles translated correctly to minimize confusion. Next slide, please. Another challenge is the time zone. Our small and large team meetings span across the world's time zone. So you can imagine the challenge of finding times that spread the burden fairly. Before joining this team, few of us ever needed to attend meetings that start at midnight or 4 a.m. But sometimes that's exactly what is required. This reality gave us empathy for all those people who normally work difficult hours, often while everyone else is asleep. Now, I would like to introduce my global brother, Adam.
Thank you so much, Marikar. Next slide, please. Steps to making our project. The 19 members of Project King were divided into 6 groups. 4 were research teams, and the other 2 were the social media and dissemination teams. We created 4 major categories to help users find information quickly. They are mummies and babies, food and water, shelter, and medical services. We had one committee for each of these 4 categories, with team members responsible for researching links that will populate each of the subsections of the website. The social media team created plans to promote the website using social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to increase awareness of our project. We created a QR code to be used in all the materials to promote the site and make it easy for refugees to link to the information. Lastly, we did a lot of beta testing, looking at each link for accuracy, usefulness, and connectivity. Each team met for 2 hours each week to work on research or campaign for the website. Through dedication and commitment to ourselves, our goals, and each other, we were able to create a website that refugees in Ukraine would have access to from across the world. Next slide, please. About the website, we chose Mir as the site name, as that would translate to peace in both Russian and Ukrainian. That is what we want for these 2 beautiful countries. The portal and application provide contact information for more than 250 service providers. Our hope with our website is to reach those refugees that need our help to survive and start new lives, or return home if and when possible. And now I would like to introduce my global brother to Michel.
Thank you so much, Adam. Now that you've heard about the website, I'll take you through the user's view. So next slide, please. Here are 4 views of what users would see on various parts of the mobile application. Our goal was to connect users to critical information with as few clicks as possible. The first image shows the main landing page. This includes 4 main categories along with a welcome message and a section that offers hope in form of music and poetry. The third image shows the detail of the food section with further links to various types of food services and even a place where those who can are able to donate to various charities. The last section displays a specific site and link, in this case, to a restaurant that also offers online ordering. Next slide, please. The results. As the website and app are newly launched, we plan to study data generated from site visits to help us make changes to improve the website and app. The data will allow us to identify which resources refugees believe to be of high priority. We can then make updates to the site better suited to current refugee needs. Through all these things, we have been empowered to teach others about what we have learned and use our knowledge to launch local and global projects with positive impact. Next slide, please. The students of Project King are making an impact on the world as of today by creating this much needed website. Impact does not always have to be global. It changes all of us who contributed. Having the opportunity to work with our brothers and sisters in the program had a huge impact on us. We come from different continents and countries, so our cultures differ, and that allows us to hear opinions, perspectives, and solutions from each other that would not be possible in our home countries. This makes working together more interesting, authentic, and impactful. And I would like to reintroduce my global sister, Steffi.
Thank you so much. Next slide, please. Thank you. So spreading the word. Even if our slide was well designed and helpful, we still need to figure out how to reach our target audience. We knew most of the refugees still had access to the internet on their mobile phone, so we created a series of messages to be shared on social media platforms. Next slide, please. Thank you. We want to invite everyone to check out these QR codes. We are giving you 10 seconds and have time to capture it. Our secretary will provide the links in the chat box for more details about our platform. Have time and check on it. Thank you. Next slide, please. Conclusion. To conclude, we would like to emphasize the fact that we as young leaders saw the problem in the world, and we decided to do something about it. Like so many of us here at this symposium today, we felt that we had an obligation to use our knowledge and talents to create and launch a project that would have the capacity to provide relief to Ukrainian refugees. Next slide, please. Good news, we are interviewing the class of 2026 now. If you're interested in joining Project King, please write down this email address and email us now. Use King applicant for title message. Thank you. Next slide, please. And now we will leave you with a message. Our group made a TikTok video message for you all. Thank you so much for your attention. And Miss Amanda, if you would be so kind, please start the video. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for your wonderful presentation and all of the students that contributed to the project. You said about 20 students, which is incredible and amazing for the work that you are doing. So maybe just one quick question because we want to move on to the next group. But how do you all source resources for your project? What would be your advice for other students? Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your question. I will pass it to Helga, to my sister in Hungary.
Thank you so much, Steffi, and thank you so much, Ms. Amanda, for your question. We had a training on how to identify sources that can be trusted. And my advice personally would be to check multiple sources because you cannot really trust one. And when we do research, we always do it in groups so that we can make sure that we find as many helpful links and resources as possible. And together, through our combined efforts, we will be able to find links that would actually contribute helpful information.
Great, thank you so much. So we will have the opportunity to network with you later to learn more about the project and the details. So this is great. So we will move on to the next student presenter now. The next student presenter is Ensal Rowe, but goes by Gloria, is a student highly passionate about sustainability and has participated in very many clubs and activities that contribute to the climate crisis. They participated in the Cleanup Day, Rethink Plastic Vietnam, in the COP21 Sustainability Symposium, and they also completed a gardening workshop in grade 7. They also participate in their CAS group, Empty Bowl, and the Social Emotional Forum, which helps people cope with their emotions and engage in diverse international days in the school. Lately, they've been focusing on Mental Health Awareness Month, and they're also the student leader of their current school's TED Talk Club. So we're very happy to hear from them and hear their presentation that they are going to give to us today. So I will share my screen and we can move into the next presentation. But wonderful work, everyone. Gloria, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can I have the introduction video first, please?
Okay, I'll share the video first. Your microphone is a little bit quiet, so maybe just speak up a little bit, and then so everyone can definitely hear you over Zoom.
Okay.
All right.
When me with my family, that gets happy when I'm around my friends. It's like lately we finished our events, which is really good. Usually all the time. I feel happy when I'm with my family and friends. Well, my thing that makes me happy is my house, my room, because it's all purple. It's a favorite color. I feel happy when my friend be kind to me and if I have a need. When I just play video games or eat instant noodles. Like with friends and play. Like I'm very happy when my name is happy. I want to be happy. I don't think so, no. Not really. Definitely not. No, not at all. I don't really like about the pollution. Not really. I don't. No.
Feel free to start.
Are you being sustainable? Are you happy? Are you happy 100,000 marine mammals die each year from plastic pollution alone? When 4.7% of Arctic sea ice is declining per decade? When air pollution is associated with 7 million premature deaths annually? Hi, this is Eunso Roh, 14-year-old from South Korea, and I'm currently a student of International School Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. Sincerely honored to present my plan and idea for my project, Happiness Motivates Sustainability. Next slide, please. My goal for the project is to investigate the psychological reason for people's inactiveness towards climate change and promote being sustainable by linking happiness as the ultimate motivation. Happiness and sustainability. Happiness and sustainability. The two untangled terms will drive our planet to a more sustainable, happier place. Next slide, please. Now, discussing motivations. What motivation has driven me to tackle this matter? As a student leader of my school's TEDx organization, the TEDx Club, I have passed through countless TED Talks. Though all TED Talks are indeed capturing, Sam Burns' My Philosophy for a Happy Life particularly resonated with me. I was captivated by how happiness was the leading inspiration and driving stimulus behind him. The idea of project naturally rose as I dived further into the concept of happiness and how it motivates people. I live where 6 million people die each year due to air pollution. As I saw hundreds of motorbikes on the road instead of public transportations, as I witnessed trash being burnt instead of properly disposing and recycling, and as I realized that I too isn't contributing to sustainability in Ho Chi Minh City, my concern for sustainability became extreme. So linking happiness as a supreme motivation for sustainability wasn't complicated, as sustainability has for long been my priority and interest. Next slide, please. Have you ever picked up trash on the street? I assume very few would answer yes. Well, I'm more than certain that we all would have passed by at least one, even if we noticed it. And there, this is the diffusion of responsibility and the urgency to motivate people into action. APA Dictionary of Psychology defines diffusion of responsibility as the diminished sense of responsibility often experienced by individuals in groups and social collectives. The diffusion of responsibility is that if the number of bystanders increases, the individual sense decreased personal responsibility. Consequently, the tendency to act also declines. The behavior pattern makes an individual suppose that others are responsible for necessary measures regarding global issues such as climate change too. This is approvingly likely why you always pass by the trash on the street, because you don't take it as your responsibility. The selfish ignorance of us humans is sacrificing the innocents, despite all the catastrophic consequences, such as heavy floods, rising sea levels, and countless victims. It is time for us to stand for tangible and concrete actions. Next slide, please. The ultimate inspiration to push all into actions of sustainability is happiness. For a moment, try to define your own happiness. It could be a small one, like having a fine breakfast, or a spectacular fantasy like being a Superman. After having a brief picture of your happiness in your mind, imagine yourself as an excessively polluted area. No matter what your happiness is, you wouldn't be able to be happy, as other factors such as your survival would become a priority over happiness. With no sustainability, happiness becomes meaningless. For innocent animals, ourselves, and future generations, sustainability is an obligation for all. For greener, happier world. Do you choose to pass down a fault or a legacy? With no sustainability, there is no happiness. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation on happiness and the issues that you saw in your community. So we're also going to have a little bit of time here to ask a follow-up question to you as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about your work with the mental health group at your school and maybe how that influenced this project?
So I'm not a leader. I don't take a major role from the cast group, but I'm just a small member in the cast. And the main role for us is to enhance mental health in our school and just work on diverse events associated with mental health. And I think being aware of our own mental health and keeping up with it helps with just being sustainable because, as I said, happiness, just something psychological, is related to happiness. So being close to those mental issues and matters help me to put the concept of happiness and sustainability together.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you so much also for preparing the lovely and wonderful video and discussing a little bit more about your project. So is there one other thing I want to ask you is how do you see the project continuing and being sustainable as you go along?
So I already have a website. It's just brief, but I have one which is just a follow-up for all the steps I take. And as I mentioned, I'm a student leader for the TED Club. So if possible, I'm planning to give a little TED Talk in regards to this project so that I can spread the message to our broader audience.
Wonderful, thank you so much. It seems you've really thought that out, and thank you so much for sharing about that. So, congratulations. We will move on to our next student presenter, which is Ashley June. So Ashley June is an 8th grader and she is from the United States. She is very passionate about the environment and she's participated in many different environmental and sustainability conferences and symposiums. She currently is also an eco-ambassador for the Center for Sustainable Development at the Earth Institute at Columbia University. Before, she was working a lot on fashion and the impact on clothes on the environment, and she got to speak at the International Conference on Sustainable Development, as well as the Climate Change Education Summit in her state, which is wonderful. She's also been very involved with ArcGIS story maps and has developed story maps for the Youth Symposium for the SDGs for Mission 4.7. So we are very excited to hear from her today. And I believe that Ashley, you will be sharing your screen, right?
Yeah, if that is possible, I would love to do that.
You should be able to.
Okay, thank you so much. Can you see it properly?
We can see it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Amanda Brown, for my introduction. And hi, everyone. My name is Ashley June, and I'm a current 8th grader at Millburn Middle School located in New Jersey, and I'm an upcoming freshman at the Loomis Chaffee School located in Windsor, Connecticut, United States. So today I will be presenting and exploring the topic about how toxic textile dyes are polluting our oceans and the environmental impact of an ongoing, very important status quo issue, which is the Russo-Ukrainian war. So the harsh reality of our oceans. Let's start off with toxic textile dyes. So believe it or not, fashion is actually responsible for 1/5 of the industrial water pollution. And I'm sure that everyone here, if we walk into our closet and if we open our closet, we all have bright, colorful, and radiant clothes. However, unfortunately, in order to create this clothes that leaves a very strong impression on other people, we have to use toxic chemical dyes. And these toxic chemicals are used throughout all process of fiber production, dyeing, bleaching, and wetting clothes. So let's break this apart. So in fiber production, which is turning raw materials into fabrics, it requires more than 8,000 synthetic chemicals. But in the process of dyeing, which is the most polluting process, but also the most important process, because it ensures vivid colors and makes sure that the colors bind to the fabric well so that it doesn't wash out when we put in the laundry multiple times. It is found out to be that turning fabric into one tone of dye material requires 200 tons of water. And it is important to notice how in the process of dyeing, we use fresh and clean water to eventually and ultimately release tainted, toxic, and undrinkable polluted water to our nature. And unfortunately, this is an unbearable consequence. And these toxic chemical dyes are going to our waterways and it is polluting our waters. And this is also degrading and debasing our land, worsening the waters that humans that we drink, worsening our health conditions as well. It is also killing marine and aquatic animals. And
Ashley?
oftentimes,
Ashley? Sorry to interrupt. Your microphone is also a bit low, so please speak up a bit, and that would be perfect.
Can I just, let me just. Okay, I'm speaking pretty, I'll just speak a little louder. Is this better?
It's a bit better, yes, thank you.
Is this much better?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to, yeah. Okay, so continuing on. So oftentimes the fashion industry is also not only just related with toxic chemical dyes, but it is related and associated a lot with the excessive water usage. So the fashion industry it is found to be that the fashion industry alone uses 93 billion cubic meters of water annually, and that is the amount of water that can fill 37 million Olympic swimming pools. And as the booming of fast fashion continues, as fast fashion is continuing, which is just massive production of very cheap and inexpensive clothes, this excessive water usage, this issue is becoming serious every single day. And for example, in Aral Sea, which is the fourth colossal lake in the world, it has actually fully dried up because of excessive water usage. And even the Environmental Protection Administration in China states that 1/3 of our planet's rivers are classified as too polluted for any direct human contact. So now, let's break this apart, and I would like to delve deeper and focus on a few countries that are suffering from these contaminated water. So the first is Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is the world's second biggest garment manufacturing hub, and toxic chemical pollution is a very important problem to address in Bangladesh. So, for example, in their capital, the Dhaka, the rivers and canals that run through Dhaka have turned to pitch black color, and people describe the water as to be very thick like tar. And in winters, you can even smell the wastewater because of the lack of rain, which usually dilutes the contaminated water. And even the kids' health conditions are getting worse every day because of the water. So in this picture, we see a man is walking through colored rainwater, and it is pretty clear here in the bottom that the water has been tainted. Another example is India. So a clothing company in India, they actually use indigo dyes to create their clothes. However, unfortunately, indigo dyes are very slow in decomposing and they pollute our river water. And this has been impacting floras because the floras are not now able to survive well because of this polluted water. And the continuous dying of water in India and the rising population, meaning that there is a more higher demand of clothes, this is making so much more harder to clean up these rivers and actually solve this problem. And local dye houses in India are dumping wastewater into local water, making these groundwater to be undrinkable for humans, and the local farmlands are being ruined, which means that the agriculture for humans is also being ruined. A great example is the Yamuna River, which is found to be that no life has thrived for many moons in this river. And so here, as you can see in the picture in the the picture in the left is a depiction of children who are living along the banks of the Yamuna River in a ramshackle hut and the polluted waters with heavy metals, raw sewage, and industrial waste. And the picture on the right is a man who is washing pieces of cloth on the banks of the Yamuna River, further polluting it. So how is this affecting humans and the animals in the region? So a resident in Bangladesh said that this contaminated water is causing sores in their body, and when they wash their hands and their body into it, it is causing them to get skin irritations and fevers. And also these clothing factory workers, which lack protective clothing, they have to put their bodies into these contaminated water, as we can see in the picture on the right, and they have to now inhale the toxic fumes in these factories. But more importantly, and most importantly, these life-threatening toxic dyes are continuously accumulating in the sea to the point where light is not able to penetrate to the surface, which means that the plants are not able to photosynthesize, which also means that there will be less oxygen in the water, making and causing the aquatic and marine animals and plants to die. And the next topic that I'll be discussing about is the Russian invasion in Ukraine and how the war has been affecting the different regions of Ukraine. So let's start with Ternopil. So Ternopil, in this region, Russian military destroyed a fertilizer tank in Ternopil, and as a result, ammonia and nitrate level has rise. And this is a serious concern right now because the high concentration of ammonia and nitrate can actually lead to a lack of oxygen in the water and destroy the marine ecosystem completely. And also in a different event where a missile strike happened in Ternopil, fragments of the rocket damaged a business storing mineral fertilizers. And this mineral fertilizer leaked into the soil and that eventually reached the groundwater, and the ammonia level has rose as well. And this poisonous substance, it has been lingering in the water for a few days. And after a few days of this strike, the people were able to find dead fish in the nearby rivers. And then the next region we have is Mariupol. And in Mariupol, the Russian troops have occupied and attacked the Azovstal steel mill in Mariupol. So in this Azovstal steel plant mill, it's actually stored tens of thousands of concentrated liquefied hydrogen sulfide, and this is just an extremely toxic substance that can lead to death. And this extensive amount of chemical spills in the Azovstal steel can actually bring an environment disaster all around the world, which is a very serious issue to solve right now. And when these chemicals are exposed to water, all the marine animals in the Sea of Azov will be killed. And these chemicals might even flow to the Mediterranean Sea. So for a better visual representation, I created a map. So if we look at it here, this is where the Azovstal steel is located in Mariupol, Ukraine. And this chemical spill can go down all the way down to here, which is the Sea of Azov. And these chemicals in the Sea of Azov can go back all the way through the Mediterranean Sea. So that is just a visual and broad picture of how this chemical might flow in our ocean. And so next we have countries that has been affected, and those countries include Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, and Ukraine. And Russian ships has recently been dropping bombs on dolphin feeding areas, causing the dolphins to die from chemicals of the ammunition and the oil spills. And this has influenced the dolphins to move into the coast of these countries that are all that include Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, and Ukraine, and they're all countries along the Black Sea. However, it is found to be, and the scientists are suggesting that the main reason for dolphins' death and injuries is actually because of the ship noises and the low frequency sonars from the military ships. So dolphins are animals that actually utilize underwater sounds to feed and navigate themselves underwater, but it seems like that the dolphin's sense of direction has been disoriented because of these noise and sonars that the military ships are making, and this is eventually leading them to die and put them into injuries. And above are actually pictures of dolphins that has been injured and died because of these military ships. And as we can clearly see, their conditions are extremely horrible. So realizing the seriousness. So as we can see in this image, just in a month, Russia has committed many environmental crimes. So for example, in the Kyiv Oblast, 15 environmental crimes has been committed by Russia in just 1 month. And in Kharkiv Oblast, 11 environmental crime has been committed. But I also do think that we can also realize the seriousness of this issue by looking back at a past event, also known as the Chernobyl disaster, happened in April 26, 1986. So just as brief as possible, this event and this disaster, the Number 4 RBMK reactor went out of control during a test at low power, and this led to an explosion releasing large amounts of radiation into the atmosphere. So 35 years later, right now in 2022, it is found to be that the neighboring areas of the incident are still struggling with the radioactive contamination, and 20% of Belarus, which is right adjacent to Chernobyl, their farmland is permanently unusable. And what this suggests is that the various environmental problems that the Russo-Ukrainian war is posing right now and bringing, it can last so much longer than what we expect, and it can continue to threaten the marine diversity. And so I think before I end, I should probably explain and just tell you guys about why I presented these two topics together and how they're related, which toxic textile dyes and Russian invasion in Ukraine. It might seem like a pretty random topic related to each other, but I will explain how they are related together and my purpose of kind of incorporating those two ideas in this presentation. So the answer is that they both have a chain effect. So for example, in toxic textile dyes, to recap, I talked about how the appearance of a new trending style in the fashion industry that leads to a production of new clothes, leading to the use of clean water and toxic textile dyes. And this means that the water availability is going to decrease, and people are going to continue to release tainted water. And what this means is that the water is becoming contaminated with noxious chemical dyes, and this means that, and this leads to the death of marine animals and human suffering, and that eventually and ultimately leads to an environmental disaster. But similarly, in the Russia-Ukrainian war, Russia invades Ukraine. Russian troops are now destroying and attacking Ukraine's fertilizer trains, their mills, and etc. And the toxic substances of the Ukraine property are getting released, and this is leading to the death of aquatic animals, marine animals, and human suffering. And that eventually and ultimately, again, is leading to an environmental disaster. So the key takeaway from this is that an environmental disaster can happen in so many different ways because toxic chemical dyes are related to the fashion industry, and the Russia-Ukrainian war is about war. And with both of them, these two events, they start in a totally different point, but at the ultimate ending, at the end, they have a similar ending. They have the same ending of creating an environmental disaster. And I think it is so important to notice how oftentimes a negative impact on our environment has a chain, and it is always linked to one another, and there's a reason for it happening. So to end this presentation on a positive note, I hope that there is no more of this contaminated water in our environment, and I hope that our community and the society continues to strive to create a more environmentally friendly world and realize the urgency of this issue and start to address and act upon them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this is a wonderful way to show ArcGIS and the mapping that you're doing here. And you actually took my question I was going to ask you, which, how did you have the interest of the toxic textile dyes to the environment and peace and the applications there? So you actually answered my own question, which is great. So great job with your presentation. There's a very, very quick question in the chat, so maybe you can have a 30-second answer here is, what is the safest way to dye clothes that doesn't harm our environment?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think the safest way is probably, limiting fast fashion, what I just explained, just the booming of, manufacturing numerous amount of clothes, because that is going to release a lot of toxic chemical dyes in our ocean, and that's going to use up a lot of water. Definitely probably like trying to make their clothes as non-fast fashion, and also using more environmentally friendly chemical dyes is definitely going to help, in my opinion.
Great, thank you so much. We will be moving into our next student presenter, which we're very excited about. So this next presenter is Ite Oluwakishi Roland. Please correct me if I'm saying your name incorrectly. But they're in the 11th grade in Bethel American International School. She is a sports prefect of the school and a very prestigious athlete who has won numerous medals. And she's currently the project manager of ProGaia, a student-led environmental recycling company. And she's here to talk about the recycling and upcycling project that she is doing. She's also currently a Young Yale African Scholar and an entrepreneur. So we're very, very excited to have you here, and let me share my screen for your presentation.
Good day, everyone. My name is Itolo Akishi Roland. I am 16 and I am in year 11. So I actually wrote a poem to talk about recycling and upcycling and climate change. So I'm going to read it out. Okay, so the title, Our World. What will be our conclusion, existence or extinction? Must our existence be on the brink of extinction until we realize our rapid deterioration? Shall salient indications to be given no recognition? Safe, or so we think, afloat, but yet we sink. Vastly, the consequences spread, eventually comes the day we dread. Think of a sky with millions of bright stars, how it must be to see them so clear. Imagine the water without plastic scars, smooth and unmarred, a sight so rare. The next slide, please. Wildlife endanger, pollution, deforestation, ozone layer depletion, waste congestion. Raise awareness, go green, find other solutions. Life as we know it depends on our actions. Do what you can for life as we know it depends on our actions. Do what you can for this world's salvation. Recycle, upcycle, we do our part. Progea has this world's interest at heart. An initiative formed by my friends and I, because the world situation is enough to make one cry. We pondered and wondered on what we could do. Thus, the idea was sown and it grew. We gather plastics and other non-biodegradable wastes and recycle and upcycle in haste. Discarded junk return to objects of taste rather than leave them to this world's distaste. So that is the end of the poem. Please, the next slide. Okay, so our main reason for forming our group Progea was because some of us were enlightened on the SDGs. I'm sure we all know what those are: Sustainable Development Goals, which were established in 2015 by the United Nations. There are 17 of them, but our main focus is SDG 13, as this focuses on combating climate change, because all of us are basically feeling the effects of climate change. Everywhere is getting hotter. We're hearing of wildfires. Species are getting endangered and everything. So our main goal was to gather trash, because that is one of the main causes of climate change, because waste is congesting, and most countries do not know how to effectively carry out waste management. Next slide, please. So the name Progea was formed by, some of us are really into Greek mythology. So Gaia is basically the goddess of the earth. She's Mother Nature. So Progea is like, we are for the earth. We are promoting the earth. I don't know if that makes sense. So like I said before, we formed this because in Lagos, Nigeria, everywhere you look, basically there's trash in the gutters, on the streets, basically everywhere, and there are a lot of dump sites, and the smell, the odor they produce is really, really bad. So and this usually affects us because it's usually plastic bottles and nylons, and they cause floods because they block up the gutters, which doesn't allow the rain to pass through. So usually during rainy season, everywhere is flooded. So like it's written there, we realize our efforts won't make much of a difference, but it's better than sitting back and doing nothing. Next slide, please. So in school, the group is made up of year 10 and 11 students mostly. So anytime we have an event or party, or anytime we just see like some trash lying around, we collect them and we put them in a particular room, and then we brainstorm ideas on how we can use them. So we use tires, plastic bottles, nylons, sports electric bulbs, and the products that we have made are down there. We made a candle holder out of broken bulbs, and we made some vases out of bottles, and out of plastic bottles, wine bottles, and then this wreath that is there is actually a mosaic made out of beads that most people weren't using anymore, and a broken part of a bed frame. The funny story is that we couldn't get a proper saw, so we had to use a bread knife to just keep on like sawing through it until we could actually make a straight board. Okay, so next slide, please. So this is the Progea scene. We're just having fun when we took this picture. It was after one of our meetings. So we have come to the end of this presentation. Oh, yeah, and another group formed by some students in my school, Beth America International School, is the Tech Boys group. These students are more technology based, and they actually created an app called Greenever, which is used to educate people on the sustainable development goals. Thank you, and that is all.
Thank you so much for sharing the wonderful work that you're doing and the very creative poem that was incredible and encompassed all of the work that you're doing in your community with the trash, recycling, and upcycling. So I don't see any questions in the chat yet, but I want to ask about the poem and what was the inspiration for you writing this and what is your process for writing poetry?
Yes, so I am into arts. Actually, I want to become a creative writer when I'm older. So I write a lot for fun, for school events, for basically everything. So when I first saw this program, the first thing that came into my mind was, okay, I'm going to write a poem. So that is basically why. And like in Nigeria, we're feeling the effects of climate change a lot, like the heat, it's unexplainable. And you know that's the cause of global warming and climate change. So we're just trying to find any way, as small as it is, to reduce the effects of climate change.
Great, and we have one other question that came in. So do you know what is the growth rate of recycling either in your school or community each year and how it changes?
In Lagos, I'm not sure about in the world, but in Lagos, and I'm not sure about yearly. In Lagos, it's just about 13% of total waste that is recycled.
Yeah, thank you so much. Do you feel like it's more people are recycling or is there more awareness as the years go on?
I do not, personally, I do not think so, because like you might be walking on the street and someone just throws like a bottle out of their car and they don't even think about it. They don't see how it's affecting them really. The thing is that most people are not educated on things like this.
Well, thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful job. We have some questions in the chat about how you teach other students. So feel free to respond to those in the chat as well. So there's many people interested in your project. So we will go, I will actually pass this over to our second moderator that will be handling the remaining of the presentations for today, which will be Samantha Lee, the project officer for content on the Global Schools team, one of the many project officers. So Samantha, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Amanda. Now we will begin the second part of the presentation. On the agenda, we have Swaminathan Bisakon, Nathan Chan, Laksha Khanna, Aisha Majumdar, and Sidiksha Chakravarti, Farrell Chong, and Azra Bakache. Okay. The first speaker, Bisakon, is the founder of FinGeeks, a nonprofit organization. Bisakon strongly holds that it is youth like him that should push for income inequality and better opportunities for all. As a passionate and fun-loving final year student at Raffles Institution, Bisakon loves all things mathematical and analytical. He hopes to make the world a better place by bringing the light of financial literacy to all. Let's welcome Swaminathan Bisakon from Singapore. And I will share my screen.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone. I am Bisakan. I am a grade 12 student in Singapore, and I'm proud to share with you guys what I believe has great potential in terms of education and eliminating poverty, financial literacy. Next slide. So who are we? Next slide. As I mentioned, this is me. I am the founder of FinGeeks, a nonprofit, and this is my wonderful team. Next slide. Yeah, next slide. And next. Yeah, So we are all grade 12 students who are passionate about financial literacy, and we all have a common belief that FinLit can improve the financial situations of many people. Next slide and next again. Yeah, our team really likes learning financial concepts. Many people like to learn it because the money-making element is really attractive for all of us. And so we can easily get lost in these small kind of goals. And that's why we want youths to take a big picture view of how FinLit can improve their lives. Next slide. So yeah, now we come to the crux of my presentation. I'm sure you guys have heard of the problem called income inequality. It happens when the rich are much richer than the poor. And this results in a lot of problems for society. Goods become unaffordable for the poor because the rich drive up the prices. It hurts the growth of our economies, and it makes our workforce very less effective. But most importantly, it would mean that we, as one global people, are not inclusive. We aren't ensuring that our underprivileged have access to equal opportunities, and we are leaving them vulnerable. This is a huge global problem. Next slide. In many places in the world, more than half of the entire total wealth of the population is held by just the top 10% of income earners. In many other places, income inequality is rising really rapidly. Next slide, please. And take a look at this other statistic in the context of Singapore. The underprivileged income is rising very slowly, and it's insufficient to even account for inflation. All these is just getting worse and worse during the COVID-19 pandemic. So now that we've seen the problem at hand, what are the solutions actually? Yeah, next slide. So we searched up on solutions to income inequality, and we found this piece of research. So there's this huge list of possible solutions like creating jobs, mitigating corruption, and then, at the bottom, we have this small thing called raising awareness on this topic, right? Next. So to me, this seems just like an afterthought. Seems like they just added in, but they didn't really believe in it. But we at FinGeeks feel like this is the most impactful, accessible, and effective solution to the problem of income inequality. We believe that a sound financial education is what our world needs to become more inclusive, more inherently meritocratic, and a better place for us all to live in. Next slide. Now, since many of us gathered here are student leaders, I feel that it would be great for me to share about how we began. So firstly, we noticed that many of our friends are splurging their money. In Singapore, we're kind of blessed to have enough resources, and that makes some of us complacent about our spending practices. And we're also living in the great age of financial misinformation, where there are so many scammers selling fake financial products, or many people blindly acting on financial advice that are found on forums on social media. Next slide. So these two gave our team the impetus and the belief, and we felt that there was great potential in changing people's poor financial habits if we teach FinLit. Next slide, next again. And at FinGeeks, we also believed in targeting the youth, right? Because many people believe that teenagers are too young to learn financial concepts. But what we are doing is to just give exposure to the personal benefits of learning FinLit. And starting young is best, right? Inculcating such skills when people are young would be very optimal for them. Next slide. Now, I think that it's really important to identify and understand the gaps in our current measures before talking about how FinGeeks particularly addresses them. Next. So 1, inaccessibility, because not everyone can attain a sound financial education. 2, low awareness levels. Many of us search for solutions to poverty in things like changes driven by politicians, and we ignore FinLit completely. 3, short-run impact. Many FinLit programs have a very short period of touching base with the community, and so there's no sustained transfer of knowledge. Finally, irrelevance is also a big problem because many existing programs teach very complex financial skills that are not useful for our youth. Next slide. So what do we at FinGeeks do? we provide FinLit crash courses and presentations to youths that are not only interesting, but are also immediately applicable to their lives. Next slide. What they learn in their presentation, most of these skills, they can immediately use it for the better in their lives. Next. So my team and I continue to do these kind of presentations till today. But for our audience today, I think it'll be really helpful if we can talk about the challenges that my team and I still face, so that all of us in this symposium learn what are the obstacles that we still face in reaching the Sustainable Development Goals set out by the United Nations. So let's go back to the gaps in the current measures. Yeah. Out of these 4, there are 2 which we feel are still really hard to tackle despite our best efforts. Next. Sorry, can you go back a bit? Back. Sorry, I think they lost a bit. Can we go back a bit more? More? Yeah. So if we see in the gaps in the current measures, there are 2 which are really hard to tackle despite our best efforts. So 1, it's inaccessibility, and 2, it's short-run impact. I think that short-run impact is really understandable. It's very difficult for us to keep in touch with the people whom we've had presentations with, and it's even harder to check in on them and see whether FinLit has truly benefited them. And it's also really hard to tackle the trade-off between targeting the underprivileged and scaling our project. And if we want to target to the underprivileged, we can't really cater to large audiences and vice versa. Next slide. Yeah, so now I want to share with you guys what our future plans are to address these challenges that we still face. Next slide. We want to continue with our presentations, reaching out to more underprivileged. Next. And at this point in time, I really want to address the trade-off that I talked about previously, right? For us, it's not really about creating impact on a mass scale. It's not about mass producing. It's not about trying to reach a huge number of people and then not really creating an impact. We want to create impact in our community by making a huge difference in each person's life. It's not just about FinGeeks. We don't want to be a brand. We just want to be a community of financially literate people. So to all my fellow students running great projects, I just wanted to reiterate something that you guys already know. It's not about us. It's about who we want to help. Next. Let's scroll through a bit more. A bit more. Yeah. Let's scroll through this entire part. More. More. 2 more slides. 1 more. Yeah. So apart from these presentations, we also want to give youths a solid content base that they can refer to whenever they need it. And for this, massive open online courses would be great. These will be on platforms like Udemy and Teachable at a close to free price so that it's accessible to everyone. Next slide. We also want to reach out to more youths on social media in an informal manner and connect with them. So this gives rise to the need for online outreach. Yeah. So I hope that I've given you guys a prelude into the great importance of financial literacy and also why we need to work on it. I also hope that I've given you guys some food for thought and insights into how the financial literacy space works and how we can strive towards this goal. Next slide. Here are our social media platforms for you guys to learn more about us, and I'll send in the chat later as well. Finally, next slide. So people usually start with a motto, but I wanted to end with it. Our motto is the beginner's school of finance. Just like how a school is very collaborative in nature, people talking to each other, people working with projects with each other, we want you guys as young leaders of the future to collaborate with us. Keep the end goal in mind and bring this light of financial literacy to our entire world. Thank you.
you so much, Visicon. I agree with you. As you said in the presentation, understanding financial concepts and having such skills can contribute to global economic growth and sustainable development, and in the end, better financial inclusion and opportunities for all. I have a question for you. How do you track and follow up with the students that have taken the classes?
Yeah, so that's something that we are currently working on, and it's a real challenge that we face because these are often underprivileged students, and we find it really hard to keep in touch with them. But what we are trying to do right now is to come up with a larger event such that we can have a track record of who we've presented to in the past, and then invite them to the in-person event and then chat with them, have a focus group discussion with them about what they've learned about financial literacy, what are some challenges that they still face till date, and how we can support them as an organization of FinGeeks. Yeah, so that's definitely a challenge that we are trying to address, but we are trying to circumvent it by, really talking to them and engaging them in person. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. Another question, are there any like additional resources like sites or books that you recommend for like a 14-year-old who's interested in learning more about like financial literacy?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So there are many YouTube videos, YouTube channels and courses. And there's also this one book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I recommend you guys to take a look at and read it. It's very inspiring, and I think you guys can learn more about what are some important financial information that you guys should know as you enter your adult lives from your youth stage. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Nathan Chan from China. Nathan is an 11th grade student of law, international relations, and history studying in Shanghai, China. A published author and a researcher of wisdom tales and history, he is a multilingual and aspires to create a meaningful impact on social justice. He is the founder and director of an international mock trial tournament. Working with Kids for SDGs, nominated for the World Humanitarian Forum Youth Council, and positioned to host a Social Enterprise World Forum Community Hub later this year. Nathan hopes to realize tangible and measurable socioeconomic impacts in 5 years. Let's welcome Nathan Chan. I will share his slide.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Lee, for that introduction. Honorable and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Nathan Chan, and first and foremost, thank you to the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network and Global Schools Program for the opportunity to present today. Next slide, please. For the next 9 minutes or so, I have the privilege to share with all of you my initiative, Mission Fortitude, that aims to address SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, amongst others. As you'll be able to tell a bit later, I have a thing for acronyms. So today's presentation will be separated into 3 different segments. SDG. S stands for the story of how Mission Fortitude came to be. D stands for deeds, which will cover what Mission Fortitude has done thus far and its significance. And G stands for growth in regards to future involvement and next steps. Next slide, please. I'm currently a rising 12th grader studying at the Shanghai American School, and I've always loved stories. At my age, most of the useful reading is done out of textbooks, and stories can seem juvenile or useless, but they transmit emotions like none other. In fact, while I read many informational passages describing the horrors of the Holocaust for class, it was a short story about an unknown civilian that ignited my passion for justice 4 years ago. I wanted to share it with all of you today. As Erna Petri, a German homemaker and mother of 2, was driving home after grocery shopping, she saw 6 disheveled and seemingly scared children huddling together on the side of the road. It was the summer of 1943. And through word of mouth, Erna knew that a group of Jewish children had escaped from a train headed to a Nazi extermination center. it occurred to her that these children may have been a part of that group. She approached them and kindly invited them to come home with her. Once at her house, she gave them something to eat and reassured them that they would be safe. Then, in a wooded area by her house, she stood them, one next to the other. She placed herself behind them, pulled out a gun, and shot each of them in the back of the head. We've all heard about the concentration camps and the horrors perpetrated by Hitler, but this sent shivers down my spine because Petri was just another everyday person. I'm of the belief that all humans are innately good, but that circumstances can bring out evil in us, like the injustices being perpetrated in Ukraine. So I wanted to establish a framework that would encourage youth from all socioeconomic backgrounds to develop their own blueprints on social justice. Rome wasn't built in a day, and it will take our generation, an entire generation of change makers, to instill this paradigm shift towards a more just and equitable world. However, intention isn't enough to realize social change. If so, we'd have a utopian society. But reality is that many youth lack the necessary knowledge, skills, and network. Next slide, please. So, transitioning to the D of SDG, Mission Fortitude is a 4-step journey that addresses these issues. Our mission is to empower youth internationally to become social entrepreneurs, innovators, and advocates for SDG number 16 in line with Agenda 2030. The first step in this process is participating in the LACA mock trial, which stands for the Law Association for Crimes Across History. We write our own cases themed around social justice topics, hoping to address current issues through studying history critically. The second step is speaking with 5 experts on History for Two, which is a podcast that examines history as well as history in the making to extract useful lessons about social justice. The third step is completing the Wharton Social Entrepreneurship class. And the final step is familiarizing oneself with SPOT, standing for Student Projects Organized Together, which is a platform for students to market or browse youth initiatives and meet peers internationally. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. To revisit the idea of stories now. While the presentation will show comprehensible visuals regarding all the takeaways in 2 parts, I'll be discussing some impacts of Mission Fortitude through anecdotes. For example, I think that few embody the essence of Mission Fortitude better than Kennedy Nwankwo. Kennedy is a law student in Nigeria who reached out to me about LACA a few months ago. He was too late to compete in last semester's tournament. However, he was so eager to participate that he came to spectate a trial, study some past cases, and even scheduled a few private conversations with myself and the organizing team. In short, he got the condensed version of the LACA experience, but nonetheless, he bought into the mission. Seeing the regional injustices being perpetrated around him, like extortion of the general public due to the lack of basic legal knowledge, he decided to create a franchise of LACA, working to spread it into Africa and to register it as an official NGO. Next slide, please. Oh, apologies. I think I went too many slides. Can you please go back a slide?
Is this good?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. LACA also has an official partnership with UWC Costa Rica. Through our collaboration, and shout out to Ms. Paula Proti, we were able to sponsor 5 students to compete at LACA. Their names are Jed, Jin, Yu, Kimi, and Dasha. In fact, they enjoyed it so much that many are now looking to compete at History for Two's oratory competition for justice. Finally, although Mission Fortitude is nonprofit, we're now also funding a recurring scholarship for a UWC student that exhibits a keen passion for social justice. And just being mindful of the chat, I think, can we quickly just revisit Impact Part 1, the last slide just for the audience real quick? Thank you. All right.
Failing part one.
Yeah, I think that was good. Do you mind advancing 2 slides, please? And for audience members who would like to look at these impacts more in depth later, I am more than happy to share the PowerPoint. Back to the presentation, planning Mission Fortitude wasn't easy, but seeing real impact being made is worth all the work. If you're wondering, I didn't have all this planned out when I began LACA 3 years ago. It's like those mazes at the end of magazines where it's always easier to trace your steps backwards. Mission Fortitude was similar, with each step developed independently over years and the dots not connecting until the end. Now, I'm not advocating for trying to make a change without a plan, but I am encouraging you to begin ideating and prototyping if there is an injustice that you want to tackle. Too much speaking and not enough action is why the world still faces so many global issues. While I'm very grateful for how much Mission Fortitude has already touched the lives of over 1,000 youth in 35 countries, this process isn't over until the world is rid of injustices. That's going to take a while, which brings me to the final section of the presentation, the G in SDG, growth. This year, I have the honor to be hosting the Social Enterprise World Forum Community Hub here in Shanghai in hopes of taking impact to the next level. The end goal is to inspire and equip 10,000 youth across 100 countries with the necessary skill set to run their unique social justice initiatives and to realize tangible and measurable socioeconomic impact in 5 years. However, this all starts with proactive youth, like you all, that are truly passionate about instigating generational change. Next slide, please. Mission Fortitude believes in tailored experiences. So to get involved, you can either choose to enroll in the entire program or be a part of the various initiatives independently, which can all be accessed through our website. Additionally, I'd like to extend an invitation to any who want to create programs to tackle region-specific issues to reach out. Mission Fortitude is looking for a group of student advocates to pave the way and make this process known internationally. I also hope that Mission Fortitude can continue to collaborate with the Global Schools Program, which is doing brilliant work by integrating SDG learning into schools. Since Mission Fortitude is also a curriculum of sorts, using interactive programs to teach about SDG 16, I hope that we can work in tandem with SDSN's network of schools internationally to scale its impact. Hopefully, you will all join me on this journey to inspire a movement that will build sustainable solutions to dismantle these unsustainable injustices. The world has enough problems without humans hurting other humans. And final slide, please. Again, thank you to the Global Schools Program for this incredible opportunity to contribute towards collective action. And for anyone looking to connect, this is my LinkedIn. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you so much for sharing. It's very important to empower and encourage youth in different parts of the world to think and learn how to become innovators, entrepreneurs, and supporters of SDGs. And Mission Fortitude is a great initiative to provide such skills. I have a question for you. If like a student is interested in joining Mission Fortitude, should they contact you on LinkedIn or how should they get in touch?
Yeah, no problem. Just please reach out to me directly. I'd love to get to know and connect with any and all of you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next presenters. Laksha Khanna, Aishi Majumdar, and Sidiksha Chakravarti. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from India. A student of grade 10 at Sushila Burla Girls School, Laksha is currently interning with The Seeking Mind as their social media manager. She also writes captions, articles for Voicing Youth. She interned at Holodeck as their green ambassador and educated people about e-waste and importance of recycling. Aishi is a student of grade 10. She has won medals for her performance in English, mathematics, science and astronomy Olympiads, and as a talent search examination. Recently, one of her short stories got published in Cloud9, a national magazine curated by illustrious author Ruskin Bond. And Sudiksha is a student, also in grade 10. She won the General Proficiency Award for several years, and she also enjoys public speaking and is a trained dancer. She held the post of the House Prefect and had been elected as a school captain in 2022. She possesses a great leadership skills and creative thinking is her forte. Let's welcome Laksha, Aishi, and Sudiksha, and I'll share my screen.
Okay, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Warm greetings from India to everyone present here at this August forum. Today, we, the students of the 10th grade of Sushila Birla Girls School, Kolkata, India, will address the issues of education, gender inequality, and other socio-economic and cultural inequalities in the largest democracy of the world. We present before you, India, a New Dawn. Next slide, please. The voices. Hush, do you hear the voices? The whispers that change to roars? Gone are the shadows of yesterday, for at last the battle has ceased, and from the ashen, bloodied remains, they rise, finally free. Gone are the fears of tomorrow, with love and hope they thrive. They drift and soar on their broken wings, looking at the shattered chains they left behind. Gone is the hatred for today. They live and laugh like humans do. Their eager, clutching hands hold on to the hopes of starting life anew. Hush, listen to those voices, those whispers that change to roars. Next slide, please.
Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. India has made many efforts towards achieving inclusive and equitable quality education to all for creating a sustainable future for the nation. Next slide, please. It has launched various policies and schemes, including the Right to Education Act 2009, which established free and compulsory education for children between 6 to 14 years as a fundamental right. Some of the other projects are Pade Bharat Bade Bharat, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, the Rashtriya Vishkar Abhiyan, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Mid-day Meal Scheme, many other scholarship schemes for minority students, poor but meritorious students, incentives to girls for secondary education, schemes to encourage the youth to enroll in higher education, to give India access to the world economy, and many others. To meet the changing dynamics of the present day, the new national education policy focuses on introduction of new pedagogical and curricular structure to inculcate creativity, critical thinking, logical decision-making capacity, gender equity, foundational literacy and numeracy, and equip students with skill development and upgradation, including information and communication technology. Next slide, please. These various projects have clearly helped in maintaining an increasing trend in the gross enrollment ratio and the gender parity index in India. Next slide, please. There are various changes which have helped in the progress of the education system in India, and they are experiential project-based learning that helps in retention of knowledge and develop skills, peer learning that creates an environment of open communication. Schools equipped with modern teaching aids, computer facilities have widened the horizons for students. Improvement in school infrastructure facilities. Initiatives like e-Pathshala, educational TV channels, and free online books that have helped students a lot, particularly during the pandemic, to bridge the learning gap. Next slide, please. However, in order to increase the quality of education, more emphasis should be given on student-centric, self-directed outcome-based curriculum, increasing the access of students to computers and the internet, training teachers to maintain a uniform teaching standard across India, physical and mental health education for overall well-being. Next slide, please. In addition to this, efforts should be made on proper implementation of the schemes and policies to overcome the obstacles of social issues like child labor, early marriage of the girl child, financial constraints, and domestic duties, which hinder the progress of inclusive education. Next slide, please. Though the COVID-19 pandemic has slowed down the pace of progress in the education sector in India, we are hopeful that constant efforts in these aspects will enable our country to achieve greater heights in the education sector.
Next slide, please. My boy, my most prized possession. The Sharma family won a lottery. Mithali gave birth to a son. Their fixed deposit account had finally opened up. I'll tell you how. Yash would spend his youth getting educated and would bag a well-paying job. Mr. Sharma would be able to get a handsome dowry from Yash's marriage, retire, and pass the baton to his son. Ah, what a future! No wonder boys are put on a pedestal. In our country, girls are looked down upon and are seen as a burden who have to be given off by paying a massive sum. So instead of spending on their daughter's education, the parents prefer saving up their money for her dowry and put her in charge of helping her mother around with the family chores, which would be of more use to her later in life. The other day, I found an article online which read, "Dowry based on degree?" There, the price of each man was noted in accordance to the career path pursued. Lawyer, 80 lakhs. Engineer, 90 lakhs. Doctor, a whooping 1 crore, and so on. As a society, we have normalized putting a price on everything. Women can be sold, men can be bought. Marriage is no longer a union of hearts, but a union of money and power. The Indian government over the years have realized the dwindling parity and have implemented numerous schemes to empower females in India. Due to this, the national sex ratio at birth has shown an upward trend, and so has the national gross enrollment ratio of girls in secondary schools. Next slide, please. Let's look at another example. 21-year-old Radha, uneducated, belonged to a poor family. Her aunt got her fixed with the most eligible bachelor, alok, an engineer by profession. The ceremony was just the beginning of money extortion from Radha's family. Initially, young and naive Radha did not make much weight, but soon the veil blinding her from the truth was lifted. When she tried to voice it out, she was subjected to domestic violence. Helpless Radha could only find a solution by committing suicide. She is not the only one. About 20 women in India, I repeat, 20 women die dowry deaths every day, according to The Guardian. To lessen this number, the government launched the One Stop Center scheme, which established one-stop centers at various locations across the country to provide shelter, police desk, legal, medical, and counseling services to victims of violence under one roof, integrated with a 24-hour helpline. The Indian scenario is changing. When the so-called educated son decides to settle overseas, the less educated daughter steps into his shoes. A woman's potential has started getting acknowledged, and the changes are evident. Next slide, please. We still have a long way to go, but conscious steps are being taken. As more and more people are being educated, the system is turning a new leaf. Rest assured, the gap is being bridged, and India is steadily moving towards becoming a developed nation. I would like to conclude by quoting Purnima Mein. A world full of empowered women isn't one where men are marginalized. It's a world where everyone thrives.
Next slide, please. Economic inequality. Socio-economic inequality in India tends to center around the disparities in consumption, income, wealth, and opportunities. The COVID-19 pandemic has jettisoned greater burdens on the society and has exacerbated these inequalities. Next slide, please. Income inequality. In India, the top 10% of the population earns 57% of the national income. Within the top 10%, the very elite top 1% earns 22%. In comparison, the share of the bottom 50% in national income has declined to 13%. Next slide, please. Healthcare inequality. Growing socio-economic inequalities in India are superfluously affecting health outcomes of marginalized groups due to the absence of UHC or universal health coverage. Next slide, please. Before discussing the urban-rural divide in India, I would like to elaborate on the caste system in India. Let us dip a bit into true Indian history. An ancient Hindu doctrine, Manusmriti, declared that it was important for society to be divided into different castes based on the personalities of human beings, which further influenced their occupations. At the top of the hierarchy were the Brahmins, who were mostly teachers, priests, poets, etc., followed by the Kshatriyas, who were the kings and warriors, Vaishyas, who were the traders and businessmen, and then the Shudras, who were sweepers, servants, etc., at the lowest level. For centuries, caste has dictated almost every aspect of Hindu religious and social life, with each group occupying a specific place in this complex hierarchy. India, after achieving independence, enacted many affirmative action policies for the upliftment of historically marginalized groups. Now, in simple words, the glaring disparities in income distribution, consumption, and quality of life between urban and rural India is known as the urban-rural divide. There's lack of livelihood opportunities, infrastructure, modern amenities, and services necessary for decent living in rural areas. Next slide, please. Beneficial government schemes. However, with the achievement of self-sufficiency in food grains and implementation of the Food Security Act, Right to Education Act, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, Rural-Urban Synergy, Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, and other significant poverty alleviation schemes implemented by the government, rural poverty is reducing. Next slide, please. In conclusion, I would like to recite a poem, A New Dawn. Condemned and struggling to survive, she waits for death to tear her apart. She is sorrow, she is grief, down to the remaining shreds of her heart. She screams help and let me out, only to deaf ears. Society and mankind, even family, became her greatest fears. The last crimson petal of a rose crackled and floated away. She covered up her bleeding scars and rose to face another day. But one day she will realize she has been punished for no wrong. All her weakness will rise up with her, only to make her strong. She will fight against the world, as usual, all alone, prouder than an eagle, immovable like stone. Her tears will turn to pearls, her screams into a victory cry. She doesn't know if she'll succeed, but of course she has to try. Over her shackles she shall triumph, for beauty she was born. Her elegant eyes will behold the light of a new dawn.
Also, we would like to mention our way to give back to the society. Students from the senior section of our school have actively participated in student internship programs and have gone to NGOs to educate the underprivileged children by teaching them basic math, science, and distributed e-gadgets for them to gain access to online education. A program called the Dan Utsav is run by our school where students donate various food products, school bags, and other gadgets to the underprivileged children to ensure education does not stop for lack of money. Next slide, please.
Thank you, everyone. We would like to thank you for this opportunity to showcase our presentation, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed putting it up for you.
Thank you for sharing your presentation. As it's mentioned in the presentation, like achieving gender inequality as a challenge and like recognizing that and then coming up with like possible solutions, I think is a key to move towards eliminating various inequalities around the world. Okay, for the sake of time, we apologize. We will skip the question, but feel free to ask them any questions when we do have the networking session. Next, we will welcome Vera Chong from Hong Kong. Vera is a 16-year-old tech innovator for social impact, SDG changemaker, and volunteering enthusiast. She advocates for empowering her local community with the ambition to bridge the technological opportunity gap, as well as working with youth regionally to scale impact. She is the co-founder and executive director of Simply Share, currently innovating for more sustainable impacts. Vera is developing Simply Share's mobile app Bundled. Let's welcome Vera Chong. I will share your screen.
Thank you, Ms. Lee, for that introduction. Let's wait for the slides to show up.
Here it is.
Awesome, thank you. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, afternoon, and evening. First and foremost, I'm grateful to Global Schools Program for the opportunity to speak here today at a Global Schools Student Symposium 2022. Allow me to start by painting a scenario. I remember how it felt like the first time I showed up to a community service experience back in the 5th grade, where I was giving out care packages to the homeless on the streets. To see the smiles show on their faces felt heartwarming, but more importantly, it was empowering. I was shown how simple it was to light up somebody else's day. Hi, I'm Vera Chuang, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Simply Share and founder of the Bundled app. Next slide, please. I'm passionate about the cross paths of innovation and social impact. As a volunteer enthusiast, I advocate for empowering my local community with the ambition to bridge the technological opportunity gap, as well as working with youth regionally to scale impact. Next slide, please. In the bustling metropolis of Hong Kong, every 1 in 5 children struggles under the poverty line. Seeing firsthand the problem of wealth disparity on both the local and international levels, we believe that even as youth, our efforts can too substantially make a difference, no matter how minuscule it may be. However, even though peers around us were receptive to the idea of serving their community, finding a suitable option wasn't an easy task. Thus, together with our founder Stephanie and co-founder Michelle, we started Simply Share with the mindset that action speaks louder than words. Next slide. Simply Share is a student-led platform that connects youth to skill-based volunteering opportunities for impoverished children. We aim to create a ripple effect by connecting youth to suitable volunteering opportunities, allowing them to take the initiative to propose skill-based programs, making community service more heartfelt, accessible, and proactive. Next slide. Over the past 1.5 years, Simply Share has put together a team of more than 35 passionate high school students, both local and overseas, and hosted 25+ workshops thus far. Next slide. We collaborated with 7 NGOs locally and internationally and served over 450 children living in Sham Shui Po, one of Hong Kong's poorest districts, in a variety of skill-based programs. Next slide. From fundraisers, cage home visits, care package distributions, to storytelling sessions, basketball summer courses, block coding bootcamp, STEM workshops, and many more, Simply Share has managed to cater to different aspects of the children's interests and needs. It was like sowing a seed in their hearts and watching them flourish into tougher mindsets, short-term ambitions, and importantly, fulfillment. Next slide.
Fortunately, we have been featured on platforms such as the Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival, World Economic Forum, United 2030, RTHK, SCMP, and more. But we knew there was more to Simply Share than just a platform of service, and proactivity won't be effective without sustainability. So I ask myself, how can we level up on the impact already made by Simply Share through integration of tech and innovation? Next slide. During the fifth wave of the pandemic in Hong Kong, I was no longer able to go in person and engage with the children in Sham Shui Po. Even though online services were an option, grassroots families with limited resources left many NGOs disheartened about skill-based programs, and more so about insufficient daily necessities and resources for children's holistic development beyond the classroom. Being deprived of the proximity with the community made, I realized that I had been taking the convenience of it all for granted. I knew I had to do something and use this remoteness to everyone's advantage. Introducing Bundled, a one-stop donation platform connecting youth donors to grassroots NGOs, taking Simply Share to the next level. Bundled is the first youth-developed mobile app in Southeast Asia, intertwining innovation with philanthropy for youth. This mobile platform serves to bridge the gap between the ones in need and the ones that can't provide, with the goal to increase accessibility. Grassroots NGOs and youth donors are lacking a centralized platform to receive and donate to communities living under the poverty line. These donations fall into 5 main categories: educational, recreational, electronics, clothing, and daily necessities. With the one-stop donation platform, donors can start donating resources from the comfort of their own homes and skip the hassle of commute. Let's skip this slide, thank you. Bundled solution brings together 3 stakeholders: donors, NGOs, and refugees. First up, donors. To resolve the lack of proximity to donation centers, users will snapshot their items and make offers on the app. With the help of computer vision, items will be identified, examined, and categorized into the 5 categories. Once an offer is accepted, an integrated NLP-powered bot, Communicate, will contact a refugee for delivery. Up next, refugees. With more than 14,000 asylum seekers in Hong Kong, their allowances for daily necessities became far from enough. Providing them with a fellowship as a logistics party gives them access to delivery tips, sufficing them with more than merely $40 per day for food. Lastly, on the receiving end, NGOs, as well as families at a later phase. The lack of donations stem from passive solicitation, and on Bundled, NGOs will directly make requests for specific items in each category using TensorFlow to determine the quality and condition of each offer to accept. The whole process is streamlined, from the Firebase backend to the automated customer support chatbot. With Bundled, the gap between underprivileged communities and resources will be bridged, bringing accessibility and humanitarian aids conveniently at users' doorsteps. On paper, a solution like this seemed pretty straightforward. Its simplicity was also a main driving force that kept me motivated throughout the whole process. But logistically, it didn't pan out as smoothly as I imagined. From managing door-to-door collection and delivery services to assigning refugees as volunteers acting as a courier medium, I lacked the clarity in the midst of it all. But the more I learned about its difficulty, the more I wanted it to make it happen. Then came along many moments of frustration. And I'm glad I was put through it all. I learned how it mattered not how long it took to get to the destination, but the valuable process I experienced and the mistakes I was able to learn from. In a year's time, Bundled looks forward to extending our impact to 300 children from age 6 to 13 of multicultural backgrounds based in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. We envision to see donations to provide more than 100 asylum seekers in Hong Kong with communal resources of tips, sufficing them with more than mere 40 Hong Kong dollars of food allowances per day. Donations will also facilitate elongating the lifetime value of different goods, in total being equivalent to the monetary value of 15,000 Hong Kong dollars. This is just the beginning for Bundled. We still have a long way to go. With Bundled, the idea of young changemakers is more than just a dream and inspiration. You too can come along this journey and spread bundles of love. Feel free to contact us on our Instagram page at SimplyShareHK or on LinkedIn at SimplyShare Hong Kong to get involved. To receive regular updates on our events and different volunteering opportunities, join our community WhatsApp group now and stay tuned. And the link will be shared in the Zoom chat later on. Lastly, I would once like to extend my gratitude to Global Schools Program for their time today and to all the youth out there hoping to make a change. All it takes is that first step. Together, step by step, let's combat opportunity inequality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farah, for sharing your presentation. Simply Share is a wonderful organization to unite and provide volunteering opportunities to youth. And when youth volunteers assist other children in their community, they will bring impactful change. I can't wait to see Bundled in action. Okay, last but not least, before we will also skip question time. So feel free to ask any questions to Vera in breakout room session. And we will have our last presenter for the day, Azra Bakace from Turkey. Azra is 16-year-old and was born and raised in Turkey, attending Istek Science High School. He plays the piano, and along with his friends, he has made several science projects to protect environmental sustainability. He loves to join Model United Nations, where he has a chance to discuss global issues and work in collaboration with people all around the globe to find tangible solutions. Drawing is his passion, and he has made an art exhibition with drawings that address some of the global issues. Making people think and seeing their reactions are precious to him. He donated the income from sales of drawings to an NGO, which educates disabled people, He's trying to do his part at making the world a better place. Let's welcome Azra, and I will share the screen.
Hello. Okay. Firstly, as the last presenter, I want to thank everyone for their presentations and their hard work. These 2 days have been really inspiring for me. And also, I'm so thankful to get this opportunity to reach people through arts, especially in such a prestigious program. I've always been enthusiastic about art. I believe that art has the power to change the world. Can you change the slide, please? Thank you. Now, this phrase might seem a bit unrealistic to some people. How can art change the world? I believe all of us have moments in our lives where we feel captivated by a particular work of art. And those moments can be so powerful that they leave lingering sensations that spark a flame and create a swirl of enraptured emotions inside our hearts. Well, the way to change the world lies in using that flame in changing people's perspectives. Through art, you can create a new understanding of life, and by that, it can be a social vehicle that shifts perceptions and changes in society. I want to give some examples from history that art's power is used. Monarchs, dictators, and elected world leaders have all commissioned artists to create propaganda, to generate popular support for wars, and to urge the public to make material sacrifices needed to sustain wars. The drawing on the bottom left is an example of that. It was drawn by a German artist named Otto Dix. And the 4 drawings above are known as 4 freedoms. Norman Rockwell was working on a piece commissioned by the Ordnance Department of the US Army, a painting of a machine gunner in need of ammunition. Posters of the gunner were distributed to ordnance plants throughout the country to encourage production, but Rockwell wanted to do more for the war effort and decided he would illustrate Roosevelt's 4 freedoms. And to give a different example, 7 women formed the Guerrilla Girls, whom you can see at the middle bottom, with the mission of bringing gender and racial inequality into focus within the greater arts community. Their protests and artworks not only brought controversies in the art world, but they also brought awareness of the imbalanced representation of women in the art world. And other examples include Banksy, an anonymous artist who became a global phenomenon through his aggressive, radical street art and graffiti, executed in a distinctive stencil technique. Driven by his daring risks and experimentation, he projects his crafts as a reflection of society and political corruption, we can say. Next slide, please. So with this motto in my pocket, I wanted to use the power of art to make a global change in some issues that disturbed me. I had messages that words were powerless to utter. So I made an exhibition with 15 drawings where I addressed those. To reach a wider audience, it took place in the municipal foyer hall. Then we also went to an art fest in Old Town, which is a very famous area for tourists in Antalya, the city where I live in. The exhibition got quite much attention from both locals and tourists, and the mayor of Antalya was one of the visitors. And I also got chance to do an interview. And as I said, I donated all the income I made to a foundation named Zichev, which provides education for disabled people. To be honest, it was the best feeling to see people's reactions. There were some visitors who even cried, and I felt that I accomplished my goal. The messages I wanted to give were received. Next slide, please. I just wanted to show some of the drawings real quick. The one on the left was the first one that I drew. I was 13 or 14 when I drew it, and I wanted to share how I felt at that time. The one on the right has won an award in Harvard University's Social Impact Contest, actually. Well, the thing about art is that those drawings can mean different things for different people. My aim was to show the effects of war on children and to show the misrepresentation in the media. Next slide, please. And in those drawings, I wanted to take people's attentions on what inhumanely impact we humans make on animals by selfishly using them for our self-interests. I'm actually deeply disturbed by the usage of furs, the way animals are treated in circuses, and the usage of animals in experiments. Next slide, please. The one on the left is personally my favorite drawing in this exhibition. I wanted to address that regardless of our skin colors, race, gender, or physical appearance, in a sense, we're all the same. We're all made out of flesh and bone. And on the right my goal was to address human trafficking and / objectification of women. Next slide, please. And in those drawings, my criticism was on violence and again on the impacts of war on the innocent ones, children. Next slide. Thank you. I want to give a truly sad fact. There are now 5.25 trillion macro and micro pieces of plastic in our ocean and 46,000 pieces in every square mile of ocean, weighing up to 269,000 tons. The effects of it on especially marine animals devastated me. So I wanted to add drawings about that. Also, to act on it, me and two of my friends synthesized bioplastic from the shells of oak trees. Next slide, please. And these two are the last ones that I wanted to display. We're killing our home, Earth, with global warming. Burning fossil fuels, releasing vast volumes of greenhouse gases are the main causes of it. And the next slide. Thank you. I wanted to end my presentation with a quote that I really like by Picasso. Art is a light that enables us to realize the truth. That was all from me. I hope you enjoyed and caught the messages I wanted to give. Thank you so much for paying attention. Again, it was a pleasure to show my work to such a valuable audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Azra. These artworks are just splendid, and it's just really striking to see a 16-year-old to have this talent and to tackle and communicate global issues through art. Okay, thank you everyone. It's an honor to have you all here and share your projects, initiatives through presentations and other creative outputs. Now I will hand over to Amanda and she will describe about the breakout rooms.
Hi, everyone. I just want to reiterate what Samantha said. All of the projects shared were wonderful, and we're so honored to have you here sharing, inspiring everyone, and being a part of this global community working towards sustainable development. The last thing we are doing today is we are doing 3 breakout rooms with the option for the attendees to ask our wonderful students more questions about their projects and their presentations. So similar to yesterday, there will be 3 breakout rooms where you can choose and select where to go to. So the first breakout room, we will have Ashley June, who did the presentation on the sustainable fashion, as well as peace in Russia and Ukraine. We will also have Nathan in that with Mission Fortitude. In the second breakout room, we will have Ita Oluwakishi with the recycling project in Nigeria, as well as our wonderful group of 3 students from India. And then in the last breakout room, we will have Vera, who just was the presentation before this. We will also have Azra with her presentation on art, as well as the Suma-san group. So I will really quickly assign those breakout rooms. Just give me 1 second. So for our team, I don't know if there's any other announcements while I just quickly assign these breakout rooms.
No, wonderful. That was great. Yeah, we're looking forward to the breakout sessions and networking. So any questions that didn't get answered before will be able to get answered in these sessions as well. And then you'll be able to either use the chat function or raise your hand, and then that way it'll just be an open discussion. There's not too much structure to it. It'll just be an opportunity to, again, connect with the presenters and ask them a little bit more about their projects and potentially share any projects that you're working on as well. And yeah, so we'll just join the breakout room sessions now.
Yes, I'm just setting this up. So I've set up room 1, and just to reiterate, room 1 will have Ashley and Nathan. Room 2 will have Ite, as well as the wonderful presentations from India. Let me assign those there. And then the last room will have the Suma-san group, as well as Vera and Azra. So sorry, this is a lot of people to assign. So the Suma-san group, actually, once I open the rooms, feel free, those presenters, to actually just join room 3. But the people that weren't presenting also feel free to go to any room that you might like to. All right, momentarily we will be opening all of these rooms. You should have just been invited to join the breakout rooms. If you can't see them, you can go down to the bottom panel if you're on your desktop. So we really do encourage the audience to ask our students more questions about their presentations. So please feel free to move to one of the breakout rooms and let me know if you need any help with that. And the Sumasan group, as I said, those presenters can go to room 3. Some people said they're not able to join, so I will assign some people. But just, yes, please let me know if you do need any help. So if you go down to the bottom panel and you hit more, you should be able to see the breakout rooms. And if not, please feel free to send me a direct message and just let me know where you would like to be assigned. Okay, I believe I assigned everyone that sent me a direct message. So you have to accept to join the room. And Viksan is in room 1. He is also on my list here. So if you'd like to discuss with him about his presentation. If you still need help switching rooms or going to a breakout room, please let me know. You do have to accept to go into the room once I assign it to you. So just pay attention for the notification. If you still want to be reassigned to a room, just send me a direct message if you're struggling and I will assign you. Hi everyone, just let me know if you would like to be assigned to a room. Rooms 2 and 3 are still having a big discussion on the projects and you're happy to, we're happy to have you join.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm from India. It's Vidya Valley School. We are associated with Global School Program.
Yes.
Actually, one of our students wanted to share her viewpoint regarding this ESD goals and our own project. But I don't know where has she gone now because we requested to go into the Swaminathan room.
I did assign you all, maybe it was a bit confusing, but so would you like me to assign you into the third room now?
Actually, she wanted to share her viewpoint or some of her points that which we are already doing in our school. So, can she?
What's her name? I can assign her to that room.
Riddhima. She's Riddhima Sharma.
There's a lot of participants I see. How do you spell that?
R-I.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I write in a chat box her name?
Yes. Oh, I did actually directly message her, and I offered a different time that she could share because today is really packed with a lot of presentations. But if you follow up with me via email, we're going to have some more sharing time with the Mission 4.7 We Champions series.
Okay, definitely it can be done. Can you share your email ID with me so that we can send an email?
I will share it with you.
Okay.
I think I was confused because I thought that she was a school leader. So I think maybe my response was confusing, but you said she's a student.
Yes. Okay, no issues. So whenever we'll be having a next symposium, then please give her a chance to speak.
Yes, of course. Yeah, apologies when she directly
Oh,
messaged
no.
me.
Thank you. So we'll share an email and then it can be done. Thank you so much.
Great. We'll find a time for her to share.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
So I believe that breakout rooms 1 and 2 have finished their discussions and questions. So those that were participating in 1 and 2, those students, thank you so much for staying on and for answering all of the questions and just participating a little bit more in the discussions today. Breakout room 3 is still open. I can assign people there. And if not, if you have to log off, we wish you a wonderful day, and we'll follow up with the certificates and with the other information for the students to get recognition for their projects.
Thank you so much. Can you give an idea about when will we get our certificates?
So we should be sending an email with information within 10 days, 10 business days after the symposium ends. So that being said, to get the certificate, you need to have registered, and you will get the information via the email that you registered with on the Zoom link. So for example, if you were just sent the Zoom link and you didn't officially register, that's a bit tricky. But yeah, so look out for that email and check your spam just in case for the information on the certificates.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Actually, I wanted to discuss that our school promotes the students that how they should protect their environment. So yeah.
Hi, I'm sorry. I had many tabs up. Can you repeat that?
I'm just saying that our school promotes the sustainable development goals and tells students create awareness that how they should protect the environment and how to keep the planet healthy. So I want to discuss some points that how our school conduct activities. So may I
Yes, the only thing is there's not very many participants here right now, which is what I shared with your school leadership. So I think it would be a good idea for us to find a time where you can share where there are 100 participants, maybe at the next session, because it's important for many people to recognize your work. What do you think?
Yes. Okay, fine. It can be done at that time.
Yes, well, if you send me an email, we'll arrange something for sure.
Definitely, we'll share an email. Okay.
Yes. But congratulations on everything that you're doing, and I'm very excited to hear more about it.
Thank you so much. And it's really a great initiative where students can participate, they can interact.
That would be amazing. So we'll have to definitely get something together so all the students can hear and learn how to get engaged.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And like I said, this general Zoom room is pretty much in conclusion. So the third breakout room is still open if people want to go there. But if people need to sign off, we wish you a wonderful day. So thank you for attending.